All right, let's talk about business disputes, litigation, arbitration, and a few other things that I've learned over my 50-year um, experience. So here we go. Um, Disputes. Usually, what I've learned as an entrepreneur, you need a contract. No matter what you do, it's not a purchase order, it's a contract. Okay? People have to realize that. It's a promise between two parties, and you have the right decision makers and the right firms and names of the companies on those contracts. My contracts are usually with mergers and acquisition transactions, big deals. Okay? So I'm dealing with very smart, sophisticated buyers and sellers. And so what's involved? Attorneys. Attorneys. So what I've learned, and it took me many, many years, is to find the right attorney that has a business background that also takes the high road. Understand that. An attorney that has morals and ethics and gives you great guidance is very, very valuable. Very valuable. And I found them through another attorney, of all things. So, in the past 5 years that I've dealt with organizations that basically my attorney would highly recommend, he knew the law, he knew the guidelines, and you have to be licensed in certain areas, such as commercial real estate, mergers and acquisitions, the SEC, FINRA, things like that. You have to know the laws, okay, and the states and so on. So you have to protect yourself. So I've done international deals, okay, and so I wanted to kind of explain how important that contract is. Understand the contract, ask all the questions, let your attorney know what your business tactic strategy is and the type of client you're trying to attract. That's the other thing. People don't realize that a contract could be broken. In fact, one of my attorneys over the years said, expect it to be broken. So, in other words, expect it to be a lawsuit and what the solution, what's the remedy, and so on. So there's all these clauses, confidentiality, there's a tail, and by the way, on my website I have a glossary of terms that buyers and sellers could take a peek at. Okay? Now, I want to give you an example of an arbitration I went through. I went through an arbitration here in Florida. It was written up by a business consultant, not an attorney, and I trusted my client. And what I found out was my client decided not to pay the agreement. So in my clause, it was an arbitration. And I'm going to tell you, big mistake. All right? I didn't realize, first of all, 98% of deals, usually in business, settle out of court. Nobody wants to go to trial. Trial is very expensive, very emotional, and and it's decided by a judge slash attorney and so on. And I had this arbitration that I thought was so solid, and so did my attorney. And I did my research to find the right attorney to represent me, okay? And I thought he was great. Okay, we did all the right things. We've had a test run on some other things. And arbitration, what it taught me, because you got to go through the arbitration console. And so attorney fees, who's at fault, all this stuff. It's unbelievable how difficult it is. Well, it was a 5-year dispute. We're talking about 6 figures attorney fees. And I thought I was going to win. I thought there's justice. I thought there was righteousness. And I didn't really believe that people would lie. Okay? And these are people that I've known for many, many years and their families. I'm talking about over 30 years. And the reason why they hired my organization is because they trusted me and my father and our succession approach, which this was. So I went through the arbitration. I tried to settle. They wouldn't settle. And over those 5 years, a lot of things happened, such as my client, wife died. I always want to know on the seller side who the family is, who knows who, and so on. What I really discovered was the family wasn't united. They were divided. And that was a problem for me because they were going to fight this. All right? Over those 5 years, not only did the wife die, the gentleman had dementia. So during the dementia period, they still fought it. I'm talking about the non-family members and the businesses, okay, representing this gentleman and his business. So what did we do? We went to arbitration. We did exactly what we said we were going to do. If we're not going to settle, we're going to go to court. We're going to go to Florida arbitration. And believe me, it was difficult. There was as they say, a lot of spaghetti was thrown at the wall. Okay, and I mean, they were even talking about authenticizing the signature of this guy. I can't believe it. Okay, and thank God I had the original. So I had to bring the original to my attorney to say this is the original. Okay, and they played around with that. That probably cost $5,000 to $10,000. And by the time we got to arbitration, they dismissed it. They weren't even interested in it because they knew we were prepared. Second of all, we had a witness to testify on my behalf. And their CEO represented the former or the owner and the family. And we anticipated through arbitration, which was very costly on both parties because each party has to pay their own. There was a discussion of how long was the arbitration take. You know, we were thinking about 4 hours. We had to select a judge or an arbitrator, and that took time. And once we got that, things kind of changed. Then they hired a very big time Miami firm. Okay? And we thought, no problem. We got everything covered. We got all the documents. We got all the information. He can't contradict the situation because he's got dementia. He's not going to be testifying for himself, etc., etc. So that 4 hours turned out to be 20 hours. And it was over a weekend, a Friday and a Saturday. And I was drilled for 16 of those 20 hours. It was unbelievable. And they just tore into me. We had a witness, we had a testifier, and we just didn't know. We felt really bad the first day. The second day we thought, this looks good. This looks good. We got all the documentation. And believe me, there was one word that was debated for all those hours. And the word was withdraw. If you withdraw from this contract, you must pay the transaction. And they fought it and fought it and fought it. Ambiguous. That's the word. That's what I learned. That if it's not straightforward, if there's any ambiguous issues, you're in deep doo-doo. Okay? But at the same time, I felt good because we told the truth. We told the truth. And I got emotional up there for 16 hours. All right. And I've testified in the past. Okay. And I just tell the truth. And this is what happened. And we had all the documentation. We had all the evidence. Nothing to hide. And the more I heard them basically not on course of the transaction, the documents, and so on, because the defendant, wasn't there to speak for himself. So we didn't know what the hell was going on, except that this is the truth. So at the end of the day, it was bad news. But I felt very comfortable with my attorney. My attorney, I thought, represented me very well, represented the case very well. He was very upset because this should have been a slam dunk, and it went on for 20 hours. Okay? And that's all money. It's all money. And you left it with an arbitrator that, we don't know. So at the end of the day, the result was I got a text from my attorney. And I know why he texted me. Because he was hurt. He put a lot of time and effort into this deal. And I was paying along my attorney fees. And I had an outstanding invoice, and it was at least $50,000. And thinking that once I win, I'll just pay that off with the funds that with the win of the funds. The text said, "Rock, I'm sorry we lost." Wow. I think it was more painful for him. So I called him. And I says, "Man, what do you think happened?" And he goes, "Rock, there's a joke amongst attorneys. And the joke is, what's the difference between a good attorney and a great attorney?" And I waited, I paused. He says, "A good attorney knows the law. A great attorney knows the judge." That's right. I'll never forget that. So, since then, I've had another lawsuit dispute, and I cut my own deal. I'll never do arbitration again. There's no clause. My business attorney has rewritten all my contracts to do the right thing. And even if there's a breach or a breakaway, we call it a termination fee. So there's no dispute. Here it is. And you know what that termination fee is usually? Just attorney fees. That's all it is. We walk away. Business is business. And never work with these people again. But in the meantime, I will never move forward on a deal without a signature, signed contract that I present. Not what the client presents. It's what I present. Okay? In my firm. Because I know now with all this experience, and I also know who needs to sign that contract. It's personal, or if it's business, or if it's both. So I learned a lot from that. So understand, business or personal, this may happen to you. So be very careful. So my tip is, negotiate your deals, cut loose, let go. I don't care how you want to call it. Is there righteousness? Is there justice in this world? I wouldn't say so. So I would start with integrity. What's legitimate? What's not legitimate? Who can you trust? Who's transparent? And work amongst that timeline. Timeline's a big deal. To me, I try to work on 90-day deals. Every 90 days. And then you're going to find out within 90 days who you can trust, who you can't trust. And you could walk away from a deal. And either party, I always give them the mutual release. All right? So that's my experience with arbitration. It was terrible, man. It was terrible. And I want to leave you with one more thing. Is my attorney that represented me for that arbitration. That balance of $50,000, he walked away from. He waived it. He was that pissed about knowing that justice was not served. So don't let this shit drag on, man. If you can get out, Harvey McKay said something years ago when I was in my 20s. He was a motivational speaker, and I know he's written many books, and he's still in his 90s now. And Harvey said, if you have an opportunity to buy yourself out of trouble, do it. And I've done it more than once. It's just money, and you got to move on, man. But you realize what you've learned. So those are lessons learned. Okay? God bless you. I'll talk to you soon.